Our 38th and final race about to get underway here in Adria. It is DD2 Masters final number 2. Let's have a look at the starting grid. Alessandro Glauser from Switzerland will be in the 507 entry on pole position. Alongside will be current points leader Paul Louveau from France. Roberto Pajewski in the 506 representing Austria will be alongside with Prit Sai in the 551 representing Estonia. Christoph Adams representing, well, the Netherlands this weekend, it looks like, because he's brought his Dutch licence with him. The 555 starts on the inside of row number 3. And alongside will be Primoz Matelik from Slovenia in the 504, running on the Praga chassis. Slavomir Moransky in the 541 representing Poland will have the 502 of France's Christophe Capitain alongside on row 4. Carl Clebot representing Belgium in the 510 will be on the inside of row number 5, and alongside will be Piotr Gyurtai Petty from Hungary in the 585. That completes the top 10, with Fabio Constanzo Creti from Italy in the 595 and the 523 of France's Bruno Dos Santos brings up the rear for the 12 drivers set to go into battle for the next 14 minutes plus additional lap of this race. So at the moment, Paul Louveau is currently leading the standings here in the championship coming into this round. And Rudy Champion was his nearest competitor, but Alessandro Glauser could close that gap. It was 21 points between them coming into this weekend. But now they go through into the tram lines for the final time. Are we racing? We do go green. And Glauser gets the whole shot again. This time, Pajewski was now finding himself down in 5th position, as it's side by side between Costanzo Creti and Bruno Dos Santos for what is 10th position. Slavomir Moransky looks to have gotten a bit of a difficult start, but looks to have made a bit of a resurgence as they make their way through to try and complete the very first lap. But Pritsai, well, Slavomir Moransky, unfortunately a non-starter, so already we're down to 11 drivers in this race. So Glauser leads. Looks to be a little bit closer at the front of the field because Pritsai is in 3rd position behind Primoz Matelik. Roberto Pajewski, Christoph Adams, Christophe Capitain ran at the top 7 as they all hurtle their way across the line. And Paul Louveau sets the fastest lap of the race and now looked towards the inside of Paul Louveau going through into turn number 2. However, the Swiss driver was ready to anticipate and he looks over his right shoulder to see where Paul Louveau is in terms of proximity. And the answer to that question, well, he's not that far behind you, Alessandro, I'm afraid. Probably the best part of about a kart length and a half behind you. However, all looking rather ship-shape in Bristol fashion in terms of line astern as Pajewski trying to get up into 4th position, but not able to capitalise past Primoz Matelik from Slovenia. So another lap about to be completed, and Alessandro Glauser has started pulling away from Paul Louveau in the 564, who at the end of this weekend will have probably the best parts of 90 points, or if not 90 points to his credit after 4 races so far this season. And that will give a pretty good lead. That will probably put Alessandro Glauser, by my reckoning, if Glauser gets the double victory here today, what that means is that it will be 13 points between 1st and 2nd position heading into Mulzen in 48 days' time. That's our 3rd and penultimate round of the championship. So Germany will host both the 3rd and final rounds of this season. So So across the line they go once again. Glauser in first. Paul Louveau closing in and puts in the fastest lap of anybody. 51.295 second lap time for the Frenchman. And is closing and looks to maybe not only want to take the standings lead, and now he's going to go for the lead. Up the inside through turn 5 goes Paul Louveau and gets the job done and closes off the door once again to Alessandro Glauser, who tried to do the switchback counter-offensive through turn 5 on that particular occasion, but Louveau was having absolutely none of it. So into the last 10 and 3/4 minutes of the race weekend, plus an additional lap. Glauser now in second behind Louveau. Pritzai, Roberto Pajewski now up into 4th place and closing down on them. Pajewski on the previous lap did the fastest lap of the race, a 51.227, but he is getting closer to Pritzai in the meantime. Now there is a gap being extended between Paul Louveau and Alessandro Glauser. The gap was 0.2 of a second. Pritzai looked up the inside of Glauser as, oh, bit of a tangle between Pajewski and Pritzai, and that's allowed Primoz Matelic to get past into what is now 3rd position. And they haven't finished squabbling yet, because now Christoph Adams decides to throw his 2 cents in the ring and saying, hey, you want to play? I'll come and play with you guys. I'll come and fight with you. There you go. Christoph Adams showing some shades of old there in the 555 from the Netherlands, representing the Netherlands. 9.5 minutes still to go in this race, and Paul Louveau and Alessandro Glauser have broken away from those behind. Matelic now in 3rd position ahead of Pajewski. Pritzai rounds out the top 5 ahead of Christoph Adams, Carl Klebord, Fabio Constanzo Creti, Christophe Capitan, Bruno Dos Santos and Peter Giotai-Petty in 11th, with Slavomir Maransky not taking the start after this race, after the first final. But Louveau keeping ahead of Glauser. Now will Glauser wait and bide his time? He's got 9 minutes of this race, so 5 minutes down, 9 to go. Louveau, we saw how dominant the French driver on the red speed chassis in the 564 entry, how dominant he was by securing pole position, which no one I think saw coming. Also, I noticed on his Instagram feed earlier on, he likes to do a bit of cleaning to the equipment that he uses, and if you are a driver that does that kind of thing, it means that if you take care of your machinery will take care of you. Very much like, say, if you look after your car looks after you. Well, Paul Louveau, very much a man that loves the attention to the finer details, and that just gives you an insight on how much it means to these drivers to compete in these classes from the Rotax racing family, irrespective of it being micro, mini, junior, senior, DD2 or DD2 Masters, because they all love to go racing. 8 minutes got, 8 minutes to go, 6 minutes completed, and Paul Louveau trying to extend his lead over Alessandro Glauser, but not happening yet. Primoz Matelic has now gone sub 51 seconds for the last 2 laps in succession, and on lap number 6 put in a 50.936 second lap time. Glauser looking, waiting, biding his time to get past Paul Louveau for the victory, but also the fact is that there you go, Glauser gets a little bit of a window of opportunity, a little bit of a door light shown by Paul Louveau, but Louveau trying to look and retaliate. And the good thing is that you get drivers like this that will use the old strategy call. They won't go all guns blazing. They will go to within maybe, say, 9/10 of what they know is capable in that car. And you get to the last couple of moments of that race, and all of a sudden, the floodgates open. And now we're getting into the second half of this race, because we've had just over 7 minutes completed, and we have a couple more minutes left to go in this race weekend before we say ciao Adria and then Servus Mulzen in 48 days time, when we head to Motorsport Arena E in Mulzen. A very lovely circuit, 1,315 meters in length, but a very, very tight and technical challenge for the drivers. But there is Primoz Matelic that is looking to close up on Paul Louveau for second position. We've got just under 6.5 minutes still to go. And who knows? Could Paul Louveau get one up on Alessandro Glauser again? There's plenty of time for that to happen. But they are all three of them running in the sub 51 second bracket. And Primož Matelic is the closest, well, he's actually the quickest driver out of them so far. And actually bested Paul Louveau by exactly 1/10 of a second. So don't say that this race is far from over, and all three of those drivers battling over the lead definitely do know it. And what this means is that from this perspective, what I can say now is that don't count your chickens before they hatch, as Roberto Pajewski keeping ahead of Pritzai for what is 4th place on the road, but Glauser now stretching an advantage and goes to within 3/1000ths of a second off of Alessandro Glauser. Paul Louveau in second, nearly half a second adrift. Primož Matelic just over 3/10 behind Louveau, but that looks to be a little bit closer. Pajewski about 1.2 seconds behind the battle for second and third place, with Pritzai, Christoph Adams, Carl Klebort, Fabio Constanzo Creti, Bruno Dos Santos, Christophe Capitan and Peter Jutaj-Petty rounding out the 11 that are still around this circuit. No Slavomir Moransky, unfortunately. However, we do look forward to hopefully seeing him back for what we will have at round 3 in just under 50 days' time. But the sun still shining down on us here in Adria, 23 degrees Celsius. And it looks to be rather warm all the way through for the rest of the day before sunset predicted at 10 to 9 local time here in northern Italy. So these drivers now have to make sure they get to the checkered flag and move forward towards what they will be doing in the third round of the championship. But Alessandro Glauser not being allowed to get away by Paul Louveau, who's just set a personal best in this race. So there are both Christoph Adams and Carl Klebort. Both have been steeped in battle over the last couple of seasons since I first actually found out about Carl Klebort and didn't realise he was such a good racer. Well, that pedigree put him to 2 championships in 2019. He was the B&L Karting Series DD2 Masters champion and also the Rotax Max Challenge Belgium Max Challenge champion that very same year. And Christoph Adams, 2-time Grand Finals champion, once for Max Masters, once for DD2 Masters, and still will go across to the other ends of the earth to go and compete to get himself a Grand Finals ticket. That much is assured, as he looks over his right shoulder to see where Carl Klebort is and sees that he's about 3 to 5 kart lengths behind as they come across the stripe. Now Alessandro Glauser looking to win the weekend result and get himself up into second position in the championship. And by the way things stand, 27 points coming into this round. He'll be on 77 and Paul Louveau will get a solid 40 points here this weekend, which will make sure that he gets the opportunity of staying in the lead of the championship heading to the third and penultimate round of this season. 2 minutes and 14 still to go. Primož Matelic trying to do his level best to get past Paul Louveau for second in this race. And what this could mean, now I'm just looking here, Alessandro Glauser, my apologies, will be 11 points behind Paul Louveau if Louveau stays in second. We're coming to the dying end of racing here in Adria. It's been a pleasure to have you all with us throughout the race weekend, and still good to see over 300 of you watching on the official YouTube channel. Glauser now has checked out and looks to assert his dominance on the race's end very soon. Paul Louveau keeping it nice, clean and consistent, and that's not just the condition and cleanliness of his kart, which will get definitely a good spit and polish after this race weekend, before the next time it goes out. And there you see Paul Louveau looking over his right shoulder. Primoz Metelic just behind, going through turns 1 and 2 once again, but Paul Louveau neatly goes onto the racing line, touches the apex through turn 2, into 3 and 4, and then into the left-hander at 5. But Primoz Metelic looks up the inside. Paul Louveau goes, no, I'm sorry, that door is not yours to have opened. But then Primoz Metelic again looks up the inside, and on this particular occasion, Paul Louveau again shuts the door. This is allowing Roberto Pajewski to close up, and Pajewski, after the race weekend in Genk, had 25 points to his credit. Looks like he's probably going to end up a little bit further towards the sharper end of the field, more than likely overtake Rudy Champion in the point standings. So get well soon, Rudy Champion, and hopefully we'll see him back for round 3. Timer is ticking away. Glauser has checked out. Gap now nearly 2.9 seconds. As Metelic again looking up the inside of Louveau, this time going through turn 5. Louveau looks to the switchback offensive, and Metelic is showing frustration signs there. He's saying, come on, man, what are you doing? But the timer has hit 0 for the final time here. And Roberto Pajewski now factoring in. And what this means, we'll have 7 points between first and second in the championship. Paul Louveau will rack up 16 points, but Alessandro Glauser goes on to the final lap of this race here in Italy. It's been a pleasure, and a big thank you to the whole team at Adria Karting Raceway and the Altoe family who run the circuit here, not just at the karting facility, but the International Raceway across the road from the karting paddock. But we are very much about to hit that crescendo here, and DD2 Masters could provide one for us, especially if it's between second, third and fourth. But Alessandro Glauser is just corners away from taking a double victory, doing the same as what Paul Louveau did. But Paul Louveau up the inside of Primoz Metelic, and there goes Roberto Pajewski. Metelic hung out to dry, and there's nothing he can do about it. I think I'm just having a look back, but Glauser takes the victory and takes a really, really good lead. Really good work. 2 wins out of 2. As I looked back through on the YouTube stream, and Pajewski managed to see the opportunity. Metelic tried to get past him, goes over the curbs, and Pajewski had got the job done. But Alessandro Glauser gets himself to within 11 points of the continuing run of Paul Louveau. 90 points to 79, leaving Adria Karting Raceway. And good sportsmanship. Thumbs up there from Paul Louveau, saying to Alessandro Glauser, congratulations, mate. Perfect job today here on finals day. So Glauser takes the victory, and with it goes to second in the standings. Louveau keeps a championship lead, but it has been dropped by 8 points coming in out of this round. Pajewski puts himself third in the championship with a solid third place there, it looks like, there in the second final. Pritzai in fourth. Primoz Metelic losing out on what would have been possibly second at the flag to round out fifth, ahead of Christoph Adams, Carl Klebot, Fabio Constanzo Creti, Christophe Capitan, Peter Jutai Petty, and Bruno Dos Santos rounding out the 11 strong that finished the race with Slavomir Moransky a non-starter.